most loyal, challenging, inspiring people that I've had the privilege to get to know. And Brooke just has this real, authentic part of who she is, and she's always open to share her journey. She is a business owner. She's someone that goes after things that she wants. She also is someone that will stretch herself. If she feels like she needs to learn and will make her better and will make her grow, she'll put herself in uncomfortable positions to get there. You guys will be able to just hear some really great wisdom and just like a different perspective, I think, to helping you find your personal brand. Brooke, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Naomi, for having me.
Oh, you're so welcome. So I know there's some really interesting things that have gone on in your life in the last year, but let's just go back a little bit to who were you as a kid? What were some of the things that you were really passionate about when you were little?
Yes, I was very much so a tomboy, whatever we'd consider a tomboy, but you wouldn't find me wearing a dress without combat boots. So not much has changed there. All things outdoors. You couldn't get me to come inside either. So I was one of those kids that was fortunate that didn't grow up with technology. That makes me sound really old, man. But I was a dreamer. I didn't find my voice until later in life. I was definitely more quiet and more wanted to fit in, but never did. So I didn't stand out until way later in life. Definitely was a late bloomer in that sense. But I always had a lot of diverse friends and groups around me and just culture. So I spent a lot of my childhood just trying to, I don't know, relate. And yeah, it was an adventurous childhood.
Awesome. So who would be some of the people that influenced you as a kid?
As a kid, I definitely had some teachers that stood out along the way, only because I lost a grandparent when I was young, and it was teachers that were there. They took the extra step as a kid because I was already quiet, so they did observe me probably shutting down more at that time. So just having more of mentors, I would say, outside of the household. But definitely in my household was my mom. So I grew up in a single parent household. My dad was in the picture, but lived in another city and a state at certain points in my life. And my mom was just that workhorse. So she literally worked 3 jobs to support my brother and I. And we moved to Washington State when I was 6 years old from Texas and Florida. And so Washington was our first real stable setup, I guess you could say. And so to see her work 3 jobs to support us at that time, we just never went without, but we didn't really understand what that meant either, besides that mom was gone a lot. But she did what she had to do. So I look at her and I look at my grandma and just other women in my life, and it's wow. You don't know as a kid, and you just know that mom goes to work, but you don't know what that entailed until you're an adult to know what your mom went through in order to get you to where you needed to be.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things you think from that experience of having a single mom working 3 jobs and not having as much time with your mom? How did that shape who you were when you were younger, do you think?
I think I naturally always sought out stability. I was one of those kids that you can go one way or the other. You can follow in their footsteps, or you can try to be better in a sense. And so what I love about my mom is that she's always dreamt bigger for me and my siblings, and she's always encouraged us to do better than she did. And there's no judgment there. And she knows she was just a young mom. So I can't imagine having 2 kids by the age of 25 and still trying to live your life, especially nowadays. I know there's a lot of women out there doing it. So hats off to you. That's the hardest job ever. But looking at it, I just knew for myself that I didn't want to have or start a family young myself. And success didn't mean money to me. It just meant stability. It just meant that you could breathe, that you were moving towards something and you actually had a destination versus a duck on water just trying to stay afloat.
So, as you navigated through life with that being something that was important to you, what are some of the things that you tended to like gravitate to in terms of jobs or
Mhm.
relationships or
Mm.
business?
Job wise, my first job was McDonald's at 15. And I'm grateful for it. I'm so glad that was my first job. It was so much fun. Like half of my friends worked there, and we just all knew if you wanted things, you had to work for it. So my mom and my stepdad at that time just said, "Hey, whatever money you make yourself, we'll match you to be able to get your first car." I still can't eat there to this day, but that's another story. That was a lot of fun. So I worked there until I think I only did like a year and a half. Got enough money to get my first car. Had my first car already waiting in the driveway for me before I even had my license, and I worked for it. Then my senior year, I had 2 jobs and I was enrolling in beauty school at the same time. Literally retail and restaurants and then fast food. That's what I credit being even such a great hairstylist because I needed all those different roles to get me to where I'm at. And were they desirable jobs? No, but I learned a hell of a lot. And yeah, I graduated high school, enrolled in beauty school. And so I was not home. I had my own apartment and I never saw it. So I just paid for it. I'm thinking back now, I'm like, God, how did I do that? But it's like you're 18, you're young, you don't care about sleep.
It's interesting because even as you're talking, you can see your mom's influence.
Yes.
Like you
Yeah.
worked hard, you had a couple jobs, you were barely home, and that's what you were used to being modeled. And you probably,
Yes.
how did you do it? You watched it like your whole
Yes.
life before you.
Yes.
I know you went out and you started your own thing.
I lost my dad when I was 18, my senior year, cut back a little bit that whole month. So, month of May, I had a little sister that was born May 1st. I turned 18 May 20th. My dad died the next day, May 21st. And then I was the next of kin. So I had my prom, my graduation, and my dad's funeral to plan, and moving out into my own apartment and somehow functioning and holding down 2 jobs. So throw that in there. And then fast forward 6 months, then I went to beauty school. My boss at the time really did become like a father figure. So it was awesome because it was I didn't feel so much, I guess not abandonment's not the word, but similar because my family had moved to Florida too shortly after my dad had passed away. So here I was like a kid in beauty school and then starting your first career job in the real world at 19 and still trying to figure out what just happened for the last year. And so having him as my mentor slash like father figure at that time was like irreplaceable. So like we're still friends to this day. But towards the end, he had taken a contract with another brand and I just saw the shifts in the salon changing. And I was there at that time for almost 7 years. And I had the opportunity to be next in line to buy shares in the business, but that was right at the recession for America. So the salon went from being full commission to switching over to leasing and just trying to stay afloat. So the part ownership was no longer available. And so I just started thinking, what's my next move? Because I never thought I would leave this place. But once he had planted that seed of, look, I want you to be a part owner and I want you to be a boss. And then I was just like, wait, I don't know if I want this for his company. So maybe I do want it for myself. And so my husband and friends at the time were just like, Brooke, you could totally do this. You don't have to stay. You don't have to just settle. And at the time, I was like, I don't want my own salon. So I don't know what this looks like, but I know I don't want to stay here. Like, I know I don't want to go down with the ship. So that was something that I saw in advance. I just was like, this is not heading in a good direction. We had a good time, but it's time to jump ship before you go down with it. And so I made my announcement and I said, hey, I'm leaving. And my old boss took it really hard. And looking back at it now, I know because everything was coming up from underneath of him, but he targeted me just because we were so close. And he was just like, he looked me right in the face and said, you will fail. you're making the biggest mistake of your life. You'll fail. And he was like, you have this right wing, like this passage with me, and I can take you with me. And now you're deciding to go off on your own. I don't understand it. And I was like, and my response to him, and I remember, was, you left Spain and went across the ocean to start. I'm just going down the street and I'm going to see what happens. And we didn't talk for probably, I think, 5 years. And that's exactly what I did. I packed up all my stuff and I took my big box along with my husband helped me. And at the time, a friend and her husband, and she also left, and we packed up our things and we moved down to a salon that was a block away that you could see our old salon from. And I was terrified because the salon I left was huge. It was pretty. And the place I left for was a hole in the wall. Like, it was a room compared to what I had just left. So I would look out the front windows and be like, what the hell did I just do? What did I do? And I remember talking to my mom one day and she was like, it's kind of like you're an abandoned puppy. Like, you're the puppy that, you know, the out on the streets and the owner left it, but you still want to go running right back to it, even though they treated you so terribly. And I was like, oh, yeah, I guess so, because it was so scary. It was just like, I don't know what's next. Now I'm going to be leasing a chair by myself. And what if my clients don't like it? Because it literally was a room compared to a big, huge salon that I had just left with 15 chairs. And this place was, I think, 4 chairs. Yeah, 4 chairs, and not my style. So that's when I started thinking about, what is my style? What is my brand? What do I really want out of this? And now I'm free, and what do I do with it? So I put on the calendar literally a year to the date of when do I want to be out of this place and what does that mean? And so I gave myself a year. And I'm a big thing in writing all things down. So I always write, I have vision boards every year. At that time, I don't think I was doing vision boards, but I was writing everything down. And I tuck those things away. Vision boards are always left out so I can see them. But like the personal goals, I'll literally just usually write them down and then they go away. But I like to go back to see how many I've actually done without even really knowing it. And so this one, year to the date, I looked at the calendar and there was this opportunity where I always envisioned, if I did do a salon, I was like, I don't want it to feel like the typical salon. I came from one that was very structured, very big, very dark, very moody. And then I went to this small little place that like had no direction. So I was like, okay, where's something that actually is me in this? And so I thought I always wanted my salon to be in a house. And it wasn't something that I had seen that was being done in my city. And so I was like, I want people to feel like they're comfortable and there's a lot of windows, a lot of natural light, very warm, cozy, inviting, all those things. Long story short, I was driving down the road from the salon I was at and I saw this house and it was just like, okay, I think that could be like perfect. And at the time, I had a client that was interested in investing, and he was like, "Hey, I'll buy it for you, and then once you can actually buy it, you can buy it back for me, and we'll call it good." But I freaked out. So I had just bought in my own house, I think just 6 months sooner, and it was like, how do I own two houses at once? And so I actually took the offer off of the table and the house still sat for like almost 6 more months. And then I was driving past it again and going to go get lunch or something. And I saw a for rent sign in the window. And so I was like, well, let me just call and see. And it just so turned out that because it had been on the market 6 months later, the rent was actually cheaper than what my mortgage would have been, because that was like at our recession point. So the market was very bad, but very good for renters. And so I just told the landlord, I was like, yeah, I'll take it. And he was like, you don't want to see it? And I was like, no. I was like, I was already going to buy it before you did. I already know what it looks like. I just need to be able to be like, let me know that I can knock out walls and all this stuff. And I had already I was buying things off of Craigslist. I was buying them from wherever. And I had a storage shed at my house. And so I was just stacking away all of this stuff. And on paper, I had what the name was, what the decor would be. It would be in a house, all these things. And so as soon as I signed the lease, I brought that paper out and I was like, I got like all of it. So we had 2 weeks to open and I had everything that I needed. We didn't even have to go and find anything else. My salon's called the Beach House, and I love all things beach. My skin does not, but I was born in Corpus Christi, Texas, which is the beach. I was raised in Florida, which is the beach, and then my dad lived in Ocean Shores in Aberdeen, Hoquiam area, which is another beach. So I've always been by the ocean, and that was just something that made sense for the brand at the time, but I had no idea about branding. I just picked a name and just was like, all right, let's go with it. This is the decor, and we're going to open in 2 weeks. That's all I know. And that started that.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny when you're like, I didn't know anything about branding. And
No.
I think what like the whole point of everything, even that I'm doing with this, is just it's your personal brand. And so what I think is so cool is that you laid it out so beautifully when you're like, across the street is this massive salon with all of these chairs and this beautiful decor. And I'm in this small little place that doesn't represent who I am. But yet you still built a business because people came to you for you and
Yeah.
people believed in who you were and what you were doing. And through that, as you wrote all those things in your journal, you were really just putting down, you were discovering who you were and what your voice was, what your aesthetic was, what your taste was. And that's the journey I hope people come to as they watch these, is sit down and figure out like what makes you tick, what makes you happy. If you're never even going to open a business, still try to like plan as if you were, so you can start to learn those things about yourself. So I love that. And so fast forward, I can tell that you had so much support in your life, and that helped you to be able to stand strong and make some of those choices when you didn't know. But I do know more of your story. So maybe just talk about some of the times, even recently, like where you've really come to know your boundaries and know what that brand looks like for you.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is clearing out the noise. Even when you do have a big support system around you and you do want others' opinions, you still need to take time to sit down with yourself and go through the checklist. Yes, you can take bits and pieces of what somebody's given to you, but if it doesn't sit, you'll just know. It just doesn't sit. You can't just listen to a podcast of some sort or an inspirational book and think, oh, yes, every single thing in here, I'm going to apply it to my life. Great if you can, but no. So I just have been able to, yeah, sit down with it and say, okay, like my husband could have gave me words of wisdom and a best friend could have gave me some more wisdom, and I can take bits and pieces and be like, okay, what sits with Brooke? What is going to work for me? What does feel good to me? What can I see myself doing? Now, all these other people see me this way, but how do you see yourself?
So, as people are listening and they're dreaming now and they're thinking about starting their brand, and you're going to come up against like resistance and fears and your boss telling you you're going to fail. How do you work through that yourself?
For myself, speaking for myself, so I'm a believer, so I believe in God. I definitely, all along the way, hands down, like he's guided me. So it's again sitting and listening, and I'm just fortunate enough that I do get to hear things and see things where it's okay, all right, this makes sense. But it does take clearing out the noise and sitting or walking. Like for me, I'm a runner, I'm a walker. I recently got into yoga. It's been just last summer, and so I've always just been active. So that's when I take my time to hear things or talk to God. I'm not a person that gets on their knees and prays and all that stuff. It's just I have a regular conversation with them. That definitely has been my guide. Even when like I can remember, I think that show at, was it Trifecta? I think it was Trifecta. But I remember in that moment, it was literally like one of the worst years, but I had a business partner at the time that was just couldn't do life, and I had to make a tough choice to separate and go my own way. And I had just learned over the phone that half of my staff was leaving because they just were done and the separation was hard on them, like a divorce. And at the same time, my dog was deathly ill. And this was all happening while we are at the show. And I didn't even know what to do besides just function and just do hair. And that's something that whether if it's trauma or whatever, like I've been able to like work through when things are happening. But in that moment, I was also called to the stage to accept Stylist of the Year. And I actually got an award that I was not expecting. And before that moment, I was praying backstage to just keep my shit together because all this personal stuff was going on. And I didn't expect to win any awards. There were so many beautifully talented people in those categories. And as soon as they called my name, there everybody was looking for me because I was like, I'm not going to waste my time. I'm going to keep doing all the backstage hair that I needed to do. And they were like, Brooke, you won. And I was like, I won what? What did I win? And they're like, you have to go up on the stage. And I was just like, what? I just got off the phone with my vet. My dog could be dying. My staff is leaving, and I have to go make a speech. Like, okay. And I did. And actually, matter of fact, it's right here because I'm in my office. This was my beautiful trophy. So that moment, and so I do keep it by my desk for that reminder of the highs and the lows. And along the way, obviously, God was there. So that whenever I've been really struck hard with something really bad, it's always replaced with something good. So that's always been my, I think, saving grace when you are going through personal hells of being okay. There's something on the other side, and I just got to get through today. And that moment was like pivotal in all moments for sure. Yeah.
I love that perspective and just even that visual reminder of like in the crappiest moment, you have this super high in the middle of it. And you're so right. That is oftentimes how life is. And
Yeah.
if you can grab onto that, it makes it a little bit easier to ride some of those waves that aren't as comfortable as.
Yeah.
So, Brooke, now that you're a boss babe, you have your thing going on, what are some of the things that are important to you with your brand, and like how do you want people to feel, and what is the values that you have around how you do business?
Way this has been something, especially as I've developed. I was joking with my girls that I have now at my shop, but I was like, I just now feel like a business owner. And I've been in business. March 1st will be 10 years. Because again, I was young. I threw myself into it. I didn't have a business plan. I just was like, I just need a house and I need it to be cute and I need people to come. That was it. So now, moving forward at 35 and 10 years later, I'm like, how the hell did I stay afloat and how did I make it here? Because I had no plan. So God bless you if you're one of those planners. I was not, but I just knew it was going to work out somehow. And one thing I did take from my mentor was, even when it came to rents and things like that, he was like, don't ever stretch yourself so far that you can't pay your rent yourself. And that stuck with me for a long time because it was just like, I looked at gorgeous spaces and I wanted to one up, in a sense, where I came from. But aesthetically, that wouldn't have been me. But and knowing too, could I have afforded it? Yeah, it's pretty and it's shiny and it has everything in it, but could I afford it? And so when I went and rented my current salon that I'm still in, I could afford it and then some, pay my own rent, my own mortgage, support my household, all those things. So it was a no-brainer. So that was the only thing that, looking back, that I was very smart, that I did not settle or try to keep up with the Joneses and buy the new shiny thing, and went with what could get me there. Last year, my lease was up. Yeah, it was in the beginning of the year before shutdown and everything. And so I went out there. I was like, yes, we can finally move. We've got a great team of people and we want something different and I want to go a new direction. And so I was like, God, just open doors. So I literally looked at least 20 different places. I started contracts with 3 places out of the 20, and they kept closing. Nothing evolved out of any of them, and none of them felt to my core like what I deserved or wanted or where I was supposed to be. And so my staff was just like, really, Brooke, there's like nothing? And I was like, guys, you can go out there, go look. And even with a few of us looking. So, and again, I feel like God was in that, because a month after was when we all experienced the shutdown. So I prayed about it. I was just like, why aren't any doors opening? Like, I'm in a position right now financially. I've got all these ideas. I want to go in this whole new direction. And why aren't any of these doors opening? And so I was just like, okay, fine. And again, now that I'm older, every time that's happened to me, when I was younger, I was very impatient and just was like, really, this isn't going to happen. Like, I've worked for it. I don't understand. But now I'm like, okay, it didn't work out. And there's definitely a reason why. And I'm okay with it. So I immediately, after the last contract fell through, and again, listening to friends, listening to my husband, things like that, I had to clear out the noise, because again, I was just like, okay, everybody's still keep trying, but I'm like, look, I get it. If these many doors have closed, like, it's not meant to be right now. I'm okay with that and I'm at peace with it. So I just took a day to be and pray about it and write things down. And the next morning, I was like, okay, I knew I wanted to do a big remodel if I didn't go anywhere. Am I going to go then invest this money or am I going to hold out for this new space? What am I going to do? And I had a week to decide, because my landlord was like, hey, you got to sign your lease and see where we're going with this. Needless to say, I said, all right, fine. I'll do it one more round. I'll invest all my money. I'll do exactly what I want it to do and what it to look like. I gutted the whole dang salon, and the process started right at shutdown. So as the salon and our whole state and country was getting shut down, I was remodeling a salon. People thought I was batshit crazy. I thought I was crazy at one point, and it was just like, oh my God, we don't know like how long we're going to be closed. We don't know. What if nobody ever comes back to the salon ever again and never needs their hair done? Where's the money going to come from? So I just, every step of the way was like, nope, one foot in front of the other, one foot in front of the other. And literally, I had gotten right before, actually, backtrack a little bit, my contractors, I'd gotten like 5 bids from contractors, and their bids were just crazy. I've gotten really good at negotiating. Don't ever settle. I'm just saying, that is one thing. Like, if somebody tells you a number, you have to negotiate. Everything is up for negotiation. Don't take no. That's all I'm saying. I actually told all of them no, because the numbers were crazy. I had a client from back in the day that heard I was looking for a contractor through another stylist friend of mine, and good friend. And he was like, Brooke called me up. He was like, I heard you're going to do a renovation. And I was like, yeah, but I can't find anybody to do it for numbers that make sense. And he was like, I'll do it. And I was like, what? Okay. And he was like, yeah, I'll do it. I was like, when can you start? He's like, tomorrow. I was like, wait, okay, all right. And you're only going to charge what? And so it was, again, huge blessing, because I didn't give up, but it was just like, how am I going to get this all realistically done? And then when shutdown happened, that kind of just opened up time, because the other thing is we were going to have to go rent stations somewhere else during the renovation. So it was like perfect timing again. Everything aligned, and it was go time. And to save even more money, because I'm not afraid to get my hands dirty, I did a lot of demo myself with my contractor, and me and another girlfriend painted the whole salon top to bottom. And yeah, I'm not afraid to roll up my sleeves, and that's something my staff will always say. They're like, we've never seen like salon owners clean or maintain their own salons from where they come from. And it's like, that's not me. I will still, be on my hands and knees scrubbing things and staying past hours if I need to or whatever. But yeah, that whole journey with the remodel, it took almost 2 months, and we were closed down for 3 months. So I was able to take the time, make sure all the finishing touches were done, and it kept me busy at the same time when, everything else you couldn't do anything. So even though I was still working hard, it was a mind shift, because I was working towards something that was for me and my dream and what I really wanted the salon one more round before if I do move again, what I really wanted it to look like. And thank God none of those doors opened, because I would have been stuck with the cheapest rent was $8,000 a month for the ones that I was looking at. And so if we would have been stuck with that during closure, I would be living with one of you guys. Like I just point blank period, or I would have had to move in the attic at the salon, and who knows. So again, thank God none of those doors opened, and I knew it was for a reason, and I made it beautiful in a moment where so many things were uncertain, and I took a chance. That's one thing people or my family will say, I'm the jumper. Anything that I've ever said I'm going to do, my mom's, oh, here she goes. She's going to jump again. Because you just have to jump. Like sometimes you just have to jump. And again, I didn't know what it was going to look like on the other side. I didn't know how long we were going to be closed, and savings was spent. And so that's scary during a pandemic. But again, for it, fast forward when we did reopen, we didn't know all the state guidelines or restrictions. And if I wouldn't have done the remodel, because I knocked out walls, I took out a bathroom that we had that was extra, like maybe 2 of us would have been able to work at the same time. And because I did the remodel, all my staff can work because we're spaced out. And we were not spaced out before. So little did I know, if I wouldn't have scared myself shitless and did it, I would have been impacting my whole business in a terrible way when we had to reopen. So
I love that. And that, again, goes to the beauty in the middle of the mess. Thank you, Brooke, so much. Like, your wisdom and insight is amazing. And I hope people get inspired to jump and take the leap, even though they don't have it all figured out. Where can people find you?
Find me. It's just Brooke_Bernard_lifestyle hair.
Amazing personal brand, amazing style, and that's why you're on here right now. Guys, go follow her because she does post a lot of really inspiring things, and she has the best stories. And I know Brooke would be there if you had any questions or any of this connects with you.